Again, thank you very much, Mark, for having me. My name's Neal Williams. Among other things, I'm a recovered alcoholic and a recovered drug addict. And so we're going to talk a little bit today. There's a lot of things that we're going to touch on. First, let me just start off. The person you see today is not who I've always been. When I was 19 years old, I tried to take my own life. 2 months after that, I lay lifeless on the ground for 8 minutes, and paramedics had to revive me. I've been at a point in my life where I slept in the bushes, and we're going to touch on all this stuff. But I want you guys to understand that who you see right now is not who I've always been, and it took a lot to get to this place. And so today I want to tell you about maybe some of the risk and some of the things that we don't necessarily always think about when it comes to alcohol and drug use. And but at the same time, I also want people to understand that there's always a chance for redemption. There's always a chance for your life to become something you never thought it could. So again, like I said, when I was 19, I tried to take my own life, and I wasn't always that way. Things weren't things weren't always like that, and I wasn't always miserable to where I felt like suicide was a reasonable uh, decision. Like, a lot has to happen for someone to think ending my life is the best possible scenario for right now. And when I was growing up, I had a good childhood. For the most part, I had both parents in the home. My older brother was my best friend. My brother Clay is 2 years older than me, and we've always been really close. We still are to this day. Um, Played outside, did stuff normal kids do, messed around with in the creeks or ran in the woods, did kid stuff, and we were really active. We were athletic. We were involved in team sports. We always had a lot of friends around. We always had family around. We got along with others very easily. So I had a very normal childhood, and in fact, I I think I had a lot of advantages that some people don't have. We were in church. We attended, when I was a kid, we didn't have a whole lot of money, but my dad made a lot of sacrifices so we were able to attend a Christian school because he wanted us to be in a good, healthy environment. And those are some beliefs that my family believes in. And real quick, I'm going to talk about some things today that I want everybody to be prepared for. I'm going to talk about God. I'm going to talk about drugs, talk about drug use. And if anybody's sensitive to things, it's not that I'm trying to be opinionated or hurt anybody's feelings or offend anyone, but I only have one life and I only have one story, so I'm going to tell it. I'm going to be honest about it. So I don't want anybody to feel like I'm pushing those things on you. So again, I grew up in Christian schools. For several years of our lives, we were just in a healthy environment. What a lot of people would see as ideal for their kids. We weren't sheltered, but we were taught to have good values, and we were taught to treat each other with kindness. We had a value system. Despite all that, when I was about 11, I started to recognize I had these feelings of anxiety and depression, and I didn't recognize them as that when I was that age because I didn't know what anxiety and depression was. I I think I was naturally empathetic to other kids and other people I saw struggling outwardly because I didn't show things that were going on inside. So it was real easy for me to be empathetic and to sympathize with these people because I could see them. It was visible that they were going through a tough time, and I felt that because I almost, and this is weird to say, I almost was jealous of the fact that they could show those things and be fearless with that. And I don't know if that was the case. Some people probably had no choice. Some people probably just weren't able to hide things. But that's how I felt because it was easy for me to hide my emotions. And I still struggle with that today. In fact, my girlfriend gets pretty frustrated because sometimes I don't show my emotions. And so that's something I still struggle with. But so, again, I'm 11, 12 years old, feeling these things, don't know how to show them, don't really want to show them, and don't want to tell anybody about it because they kind of freaked me out. I was supposed to be happy. I was supposed to be the guy who has all the friends and good at sports. And I have a good family, so everything's cool, right? Everyone needs to know that everything's fine. And I had a reoccurring nightmare starting around that age too. It would happen a couple of times a week, and I had a lot of other nightmares. So I had a lot of trouble sleeping, and so that amplified that anxiety during the day. And so the depression, those two things always went hand in hand with me. I always felt anxious, and I was always kind of sad, and I didn't understand why either of these things were going on. And they just like teamed up, and it was like they only got stronger. So anyways, I've always known those two things, and they've always been like a duo that I was always fighting. And so again, I'm this young. I don't know what these things are. I'm dealing with them. I was scared to tell anybody about them because I thought I was wrong. For some reason, I felt guilty for feeling this way because I just remember hearing, you have these gifts, you have this great family, you have these opportunities. So for me to feel these negative feelings, I felt was like a sin, or I felt like I was doing something wrong by feeling bad. And so I didn't want to tell anybody about it. And so around 12 or 13, I started acting out in class. I was just looking for ways. It wasn't that I was trying to get attention. It was that I was looking for ways to distract myself from what was going on in my brain. And I knew that if I caused a scene, it would be like this distraction. So it was something for me to focus on. So I didn't really care about getting in trouble, which is not a good thing for a kid to feel. I just didn't care. And so it was not a big deal to go to the principal's office. To me, it was just, here's something else I can focus on rather than thinking about all the weird stuff going on in my brain. So I got in fights on the playground and stuff here and there, nothing crazy. And again, I'm a little boy who's active and energetic. So I think my parents and teachers were probably like, this is little kid stuff. Oh, it's my phone. So it wasn't really a big deal. And, but my behavior seemed to escalate. And when I was 13, I started stealing liquor from my parents' liquor cabinet. I don't think they knew. I know they didn't know. Smoking weed at like a concert and smoking weed with my friends who I rode BMX bikes with and stuff. It wasn't, nobody knew because I wasn't doing it all the time, but I was starting to do these things. And not that these things aren't healthy, not that these things are healthy, but that wasn't the real problem. Actually, I'm going to come back to that. Never mind. Sorry. So when I did these things, I liked the escape, because when I got high or when I drank, I didn't really care what was happening chemically. I didn't really care what was happening physically, or whether or not alcohol is technically a poison. All I cared about was that my emotions and my thoughts got quiet. My emotions went away and I felt cool. And my thoughts shut up. And that was what I wanted. I wanted, like an old man would say, I wanted some peace and quiet inside of my brain. And that's what I got. So I had discovered self-medication. And depression, anxiety never went anywhere. They just got a Band-Aid over them. And so, more and more I started doing these things. And, the first time I got in legal trouble, I was 14. 14, and me and some friends had one of my buddy's older brothers bought us some Heineken. That beer sucks, by the way. But they got us some Heineken, and they got us like an 18-pack of Keystone Light and a bag of Doritos. They were like, if you boys are going to drink beer, you're going to eat something too. So apparently Doritos were supposed to make everything okay. So anyways, we sat there and we got drunk in a parking lot of an apartment complex at 14. And somebody called the cops on us after like 4 hours. They waited for us to get drunk. Couldn't have stopped us when we were drinking in broad daylight. Anyways, so police came, and I'm 14, so I got a minor in consumption, minor in possession, a curfew ticket. I don't even know if they have that anymore. But so here I am 14 getting in legal trouble. I go to a Christian school. I'm an athlete or members of a church. You know, I'm not supposed to be getting mixed up in this stuff, but I am. So my behavior in school and out of school only got worse from there. My alcohol and substance abuse increased. This amplified the negative effects on my life. My anxiety got worse because I would have blackouts. Um, I was getting in trouble at school, so then I was having to deal with the mom and dad issues. So I had these unchecked mental health issues and attendance in school, poor grades, like things just started falling off. And I didn't really care because anytime I felt anything, I'd self-medicate. So do some more, find something else that was a little bit stronger. And up until like 16 or 17, 16, yeah, I was 17 when I quit baseball. And that was the last sport. Up until then, I played soccer, baseball, football, basketball. I ran track. What else? We did everything. And we were good at sports. So we were expected to play because we loved sports. Me and my brother, when I say me and my brother, we loved sports and we were good at them. So it was just like, it went without saying that we were going to be on this team or that team. And, when I started doing these things, it was my parents started to realize what was happening, but there was no one else in my family who was struggling with addiction or alcoholism. And I think they were stuck where a lot of parents are stuck, where it's like, okay, is this just a teenager thing or is this a real problem? And do we let him just go through his phase and do we give him his space? We don't want to, smother him. Or where do we take control and where do we let him go through this phase? And unfortunately, I'm not like most kids where I grow out of it where I was going to grow out of it. I didn't grow out of it. I started selling drugs. I wasn't just smoking weed. Weed never really caused me any problems. What caused me problems was the things I did after that. Cocaine, mushrooms, all the other psychedelics, benzodiazepines. I was taking 10 to 15 4-bars a day, which is a 4-bar. Xanax is like 2 milligrams, I think. Back then, at least. This is before they got all these weird, crazy stuff. So these white 4-bars are 2 milligrams. And I think 4 of those, 8 milligrams is an overdose. But like my daily use was 10 to 15 of those. So I was taking, 20 to 30 milligrams a day, plus drinking and smoking weed and stuff like that. So I'm just like this walking zombie. And so school is whatever. Sometimes I go, sometimes I don't. So I quit all these sports. I'm selling pills. I've gone from like this athlete. It's just crazy the transformation that happened. And again, I still have these mental issues like this anxiety and this depression. And, they can't diagnose me because I can't stay sober long enough for someone to really assess the situation. And, before you know it, I didn't graduate high school on time. I graduated late. And that was just beyond comprehension for my family because I'm not stupid. I've never been slow. I've always been an intelligent guy who, to make good enough grades to just pass, should have never been an issue. But the fact that I just didn't go and didn't care, and my focus was on all the other things, it was inevitable that I wasn't going to pass. And the reason I didn't graduate on time is because one of my classes, I went one time. And the first time I went to that class, the teacher said something to me that I didn't like, and I was under the influence. So I argued with her and I left. And I said, I'm not coming back. I was proud of the fact that I stood by my word and I never went back. but obviously she had the last laugh. So, anyways, so I graduate late through some charter school just to get a diploma, and on my 19th birthday, um, all these things really came to a head. It was, I remember feeling all those emotions and all that anxiety and all that depression just came back, and like I had shoved it down and stuffed it down inside for so long. And yeah, for some reason, it was on my 19th birthday. I remember right before it, where it all came back. And I realized that it was too strong for me and I couldn't do anything about it. And so I decided I was going to give up. And so I wrote, I left a letter or a note for somebody. And then on my 19th birthday, I took like 15 or 17 4 bars. I drank a bottle of Crown Royal, and I tried to drive off a cliff. And when I was driving off this ledge, was attempting to, and a tire blew out. It was where they were building this freeway in Fort Worth, and they hadn't put the bridge together, so it was an overpass, these two ledges, and I was driving off one of them, and my front right tire blew out, and I spun. I felt like I spun like 3 times, but I'm under the influence, and the fact that I remember this is still strange to me because I should have been to the point of a blackout um, with all those pills and all that alcohol, but for some reason I remember it vividly. And so the tire blew out. I spun around. Now I always remember I thought I saw someone sitting in the passenger seat, but I was by myself. And so when I look back, I wonder if maybe that was an angel or something. But tire blew out and I spun and I stopped right on the ledge. And I remember looking and seeing like this deep pit, or like where I was supposed to drive into. And my other tire that was still intact caught the ledge, and I turned the steering wheel and it caught the ledge, and I backed up and drove home like 5 miles on 3 tires at 3:30 or 4 in the morning. And somehow I didn't pass a cop. Nobody saw me. And I parked in my driveway of my dad's house. And my dad woke me up and was like, "What happened?" So I told him what was going on. So they put me in. They convinced me to go to treatment, drug and alcohol treatment or rehabilitation facility. And so we did that 2 months later. When I went to treatment, I lied about how much I was taking, how many drugs, and how much I was drinking. I didn't tell them the truth. So they didn't medicate me properly. So because they didn't medicate me properly, my body decided to quit. One of the most common withdrawal symptoms is seizures from alcohol and benzodiazepines. So I was doing a lot of both of those. So I had a seizure. I fell back. I hit my head and my heart stopped. And it was family weekend at that treatment center. But I was the only resident with no family because when you check in, you have like a blackout period, which is where you're not allowed to see your family. You're not allowed to talk to anybody, blah, blah, blah. And so everyone was like, "Who's this kid who's dying on the floor?" And it's in Canton, Texas. So the closest hospital is 30 minutes away. So it took 8 minutes for the paramedics to get there because the people at the facility couldn't find the defibrillator. So they revived me. So I survived that. And I'm realizing that I'm really not in control. When I look back on it, I tried to kill myself and I failed. And then a power greater than me can take my life like that and then see to it that someone else gives it back. And so that's how I think about that situation now when I look back. But I remember realizing, I was like, man, I really have no control over anything that happens. Can't even kill myself right. But if somebody wants me dead, they can kill me. And so it was just like a feeling of powerlessness, and I didn't like it. Rehab didn't work that time because I wasn't even ready. And it's scary to think about that. Those things can happen. I wasn't ready to change. So there were several more years of me using. I got out of that rehab, and my drug use escalated. I started selling more drugs, and I had bouts with ecstasy, with heroin, um, with cocaine, and all these things I would use, and I would also sell them because then I could get my drugs for free because my drug habit always became very expensive. And eventually it got to the point where I was homeless. I didn't have anywhere to stay. I lost my place. I was still selling drugs, and I would just stay at people's houses because I had drugs, so they would let me stay there. Um, Carried a backpack everywhere because I had my clothes, my drugs, and my pistol. I carried a pistol because of the people I was dealing with. It was just kind of a necessity in my mind. Felt like I needed to have it for protection, or if I needed to make someone do something I needed them to do, that would be the proper motivation. So that was just the lifestyle I had, become accustomed to living. And I remember sleeping in the bushes with my backpack on and my jacket zipped up all the way because it was February and it was raining. And I had my hands in my pockets while I slept in the bushes, and one hand was on my bag of meth, and my other hand was on a pistol. And I remember just realizing that that's where my life was, and that's what I had accepted. Um, so my legal problems went like this. From 14, where we talked about 14, I got an MIC and MIP, minor consumption and minor possession. Um, Ages 16 to 17, I had multiple public intoxication, or at 17, I had public intoxications where they'd take me from a party or outside a party, spend the night in jail. Back then, you'd stay in the night in jail and they'd let you back out. I had some MIPs, which is again minor in possession, alcohol and stuff like that. At 18, I got my first DWI and possession of marijuana. Age 20, was first felony charge, cocaine, DUI. I was 22, my second DWI, possession of marijuana and evading arrest. Age 23 was my third DWI, which is a felony. So it's another felony charge. That one wasn't going to go away. And from ages 25 to 26 is where it really got fun, because from ages 25 to 26, I had possession of marijuana, unauthorized use of a motor vehicle because I was in a stolen BMW in a high-speed car chase. I wasn't driving, but I was in the car because it was following a meth deal gone bad. Possession of methamphetamine, resisting arrest, evading arrest, jumped bond, possession of methamphetamine, forgery charge that I still don't know where it came from or what I did. I just know I got it. Evading and resisting arrest, possession of methamphetamine, and a weapons charge. So this is a long way from the athletic kid with a wonderful family and a nice school. And it all came from me not wanting to recognize that I had some real issues. So again, what I was going to say earlier, it's not that drugs and alcohol aren't unhealthy. It's that the real problem was not dealing with other things. The real problem was the fact that I had some type of void, spiritual, mental, and some emotional stuff going on that was going unchecked, undealt with. And I wasn't confronting those things, and I was trying to numb them with these substances. Therefore, I created all of these other problems. And it all stems from not wanting to deal with some personal stuff I had going on. So here we are. I'm 27 years old, March 29th, 2013. And at this point, I decided I didn't believe in God. God didn't exist. And if he did, I didn't think he was a very cool dude. I had decided that he didn't exist, because if he did, life wouldn't be this ugly, and I wouldn't hate everyone and hate everything the way I did. So I was sitting outside, and again, I don't have anywhere to stay. And I say I'm homeless. I am, but people would let me in, and I would shower there and stuff. So I was able to do certain things. And again, I still had money to buy drugs, and I was still able to sell and use drugs. So confusing lifestyle. So March 29th, I'm sitting there and have all my stuff, my money, my drugs, my pistol. And I'm waiting for this guy to pick me up because I'm going to go meet some people who are going to introduce me to some important people who are going to front me a lot of drugs, and we're going to make a lot of money. And my criminal lifestyle is going to take a significant step up. And it was a big deal. For me, it was something to look forward to because that's the direction I had gone with my life. And I was sitting there waiting, and it was a really pretty day outside. The sky was really blue, beautiful weather. And I remember I felt completely empty. I was high because I had some good dope, and I felt good physically. But I realized that even though I had that and I had everything I needed, I no longer had any relationships. My family didn't want anything to do with me. I wasn't allowed to come to the house. And when I was there for holidays, I was walked out as soon as celebration was over. I wasn't allowed to stay. I wasn't allowed to be anywhere alone near anybody's stuff. And my brother hated me. That's my best friend. My brother hated me. And I remember he told me, he said, if you don't change, his wife was pregnant with their first child, my niece. And I remember he told me, this is going to be my first niece. And I was excited about it. He told me if I didn't change, I was never going to be able to meet her. And so when stuff like that happens, it sucks and it hurts. So I remember when that happened, I was thinking about, though, I'm sitting there that day. So I realized that I'm completely empty and I have just this inner void. And so I decided, well, you know what? If God exists, surely he'll hear me. Because if God is God, he'll hear me. So I sat there and I just said, if you exist, I need you to show up because I put myself in a position that I can't do anything about. I've dug a hole so deep and things are so serious that I have no idea where I would even begin to turn things around. And I don't know what to do other than just keep going until the wheels fall off. And that was the plan. 3 hours later, he answered because a task force showed up and arrested me. And again, I had several warrants. So I'd been on the run for a while. I left the courtroom when they told me to stay. I kind of snuck out the back and been on the run for a couple months. But the fact that it happened a couple hours after I said that prayer, I don't think it was any coincidence. And I remember when I got arrested, I evaded, I resisted arrest and I evaded arrest that time too. It's just in me, man. I'm so stubborn and I don't go quietly. I look back on it now and I wish I had chilled out. But anyway, once I was in custody, I remember I was just done. I said, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I didn't even call anybody and tell them I was in jail. I didn't call anybody for like 5 days, but I was just ready for whatever was going to happen. And I was going to try. I made the decision that day that I was going to go the other way. I had seen how many things I can do in the negative. I had seen how much damage I can do to my life. And I was an expert at screwing things up. So I wanted to see how good I can do. I wanted to see, okay, I can make one hell of a mess. So what can I do if I try to do the right thing? What can I build if I actually try to do something positive? And so it began that day. And I was incarcerated for 16 months. So even though it started, I still had the consequences of my actions. And I accepted those. I understood that. And I'm fortunate that I didn't get 10 years. They offered me 10 years twice. And then I talked them down to 7 years. And I told them I would accept a 5-year plea. And they wouldn't give it to me. And so I went back to my jail cell after court that day. And I was like, dude, I can't do 7 years. I can't give 7 years of my life to the state of Texas. I love Texas, but I don't love the justice system. Our system is unique. Anyways, that's another story. So I went back to my jail cell that day, and a couple weeks later, my attorney showed up and he said, "Hey, do you want to do treatment?" And so that was a godsend. It's state mandated treatment, so it's different. It's not like a regular rehab. It's not very nice, but it was an alternative to spending several years in prison. In prison for me, I wasn't looking forward to it because being incarcerated is difficult. The environment's hostile, and there are things that come with it. But that's not the part that bothered me. The part that bothered me was being surrounded by most people go to prison in my lifestyle or that lifestyle, selling drugs and buying drugs and doing them, and you gain more connections. So you really just level up your criminal game, your criminal career. You kind of get promoted with street credit. And I was worried about that because I didn't want to do that anymore. So I was worried if I went to prison that I would just immerse myself even more into that lifestyle. And so this was an answer to prayer for me. And again, because now I'm praying because God responded, so He's real, and I had decided that He does exist because the one time I called out to Him, He responded. So these toxic things have been forcefully removed from my life, all the drugs and all that stuff. So incarceration was good for me. I needed it. So what now? What do I do now? How do I put things back together? And so there's a dramatic shift in my life right then. So I set some goals, and there were these goals that were necessary for a lifestyle change. And I had to establish some goals where I want to go, short term, long term. What do I want to see happen? So I invested in a spiritual lifestyle. I started, and it wasn't that I got deep into Catholicism, Christianity, or Hinduism or Buddhism. It wasn't anything like that. I was just praying to a power greater than myself. I was trying to understand God. And I had confidence that if I sought Him out, He would respond and He would reveal Himself to me. Because again, the one time I called on Him, He responded. And so that's what I started doing. I started praying. I read some Catholic literature. I read the Bible. I checked out all these things because again, I'm seeking this power, a healthy type of literature, a healthy type of energy. And so I needed anything healthy because the way I was living was anything but healthy. So I began inserting healthy habits into voids that were left by removing my old behaviors, because all of my time was consumed by breaking the law, doing drugs, and lying and stealing and tricking people. So now I had all this void, and I need to replace those things with healthy activities. So, I'm out in society, and I've got to start checked out church. I got involved in a 12-step program. I started being aware of the foods I was eating and tried to establish like a healthy nutrition plan. I got back in the gym, and I established some structure. So I had these things that I'm doing daily, and there's no question about them. I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I just put myself on repeat. And, I had to start over. Like I had to start completely over because when I got out, I didn't have anything. I got out and I still didn't have a place to live. I didn't have a job. I didn't have anything. And so I really had to work extremely hard and stay very focused. So I established a structure. I developed a value system, and I built a support system. I made a point to bring people into my life that were healthy, and there was no question about it. If you're doing something that I used to do, there was no room for you. Couldn't have it. So I was going to do my absolute best with whatever situation, whatever circumstance life had given me, because I had built this. I needed to accept it. And if I didn't like it, I needed to change it. So I made a decision. I was going to do these things, and I was going to improve consistently and constantly in all areas of my life. So that's what I did. And truth is subjective. Truth is whatever I believe. I believe whatever I tell myself over and over again. So the truth that I had come to believe and know as truth was actually a lie. And so I had to redefine that in my life and in my mind and in my heart. And Dale Carnegie says, it isn't what you have or who you are or where you are or what you are doing that makes you happy or unhappy. It's what you think about. So a negative mindset is not realistic. It's unhealthy. Accepting the existence of negative things is reality, but I don't ever want to stay there mentally. Like, you accept that negative things are going to happen, but it doesn't mean that you focus on them, because whatever you focus on is going to be your energy, and it's what's going to continue to happen. So I decided I wasn't going to. I already know things are going to happen and they're going to suck, but I'm going to focus on the positives because that's where I'm going. So I focus where I want to go. Something else I had to recognize as truth was others' expectations of me. So other people's expectations of me are not my destiny. What other people speak into my life is not, it doesn't matter unless I accept it. The state prosecutor and the district attorney in the courtroom told me that that people like me never get out of the justice system. They told me that the recidivism rate is so high for people like me, and that I just wouldn't get out. Well, I've not only made it out, but I've built a wonderful life. I was told that people like me never stop using drugs and they never make it out of that lifestyle. I've been clean and sober for over 7.5 years, and I help other people find recovery. I was told that I would never get a good job because of my criminal record, because of my felonies. When I was released, I went to a temp agency and they told me that I didn't qualify. Well, 4 years later, that temp agency worked for me. Well, they worked for the company I worked for, but they took direction from me. And I actually had to let them go. And they still call me asking us to rehire them. So, I remember I had a supervisor who told me, this is a couple years ago, I had somebody tell me that I wasn't going to get this operations manager position. Not only did I get that, but now I'm the general manager. I don't accept what people tell me is true for me because they're not me. I don't have to accept limitations that people place on themselves in their life into my life. It doesn't work that way. The only limitations I have in my life are those that I place there. And I only place them there if I accept them. And I don't accept that. And it's on us to decide what is reality and what is true. Even the simplest things with my workouts, people told me that when my career started getting more complex, that I wouldn't be able to do my workouts and stay healthy. I set a state record of the squat in my weight class at age 33. Like, I hadn't been involved in athletics since I was 17. So to be able to do that just goes to show you that people don't know what they're talking about. Don't let people tell you what you can and can't do. I'm trying not to cuss. These people don't know what they're talking about. It's a mindset thing. It's what we accept and what we allow, will it into action. And these people aren't mean, and I'm not mad or resentful towards any of it. They just don't understand. And they don't get to place their limitations on my life. They just don't. I know that if I visualize something, I believe it, and I work as hard as I can, it will materialize. And God has proven that to me. As long as I do the next right thing and I try to make something positive out of my life, God shows up and he does that. He wills that to happen in my life. And so there's some things that I've learned through all this, and I want to go through those real fast. There's 7 things. The first one is that unchecked depression, anxiety, or other mental health concerns should be addressed. They've got to be addressed properly, and they can never be ignored. Suicide is not the answer. My life today, I'm the general manager of an industry-leading manufacturer, and I have my own coaching business. I'm a recovery coach, and I work I do interventions, I do sober transport, I work with people who are coming out of treatment, and I help them transition into a healthy lifestyle. I have one of the coolest jobs in the world, and it's my business. I own it. I live in a home that I own. I was homeless. I slept in the bushes in 2013. I have a new vehicle that I bought. Like, it's not about material things. It's about what we do with them. We have these resources available, and God, whether you believe in God or not, if you're doing the right thing, you're doing it for the right reasons, and you pursue it and you work your ass off, things will happen and people will be blessed as a result of that energy. It's just the way it works. And, the second thing is it's important to talk to someone you trust about the difficulties you're experiencing. Don't don't shove them down. Don't be embarrassed. Don't feel like you're doing something wrong. Talk to somebody about them. If they're nothing, they're nothing. If nothing else, you'll connect with someone and maybe share some common ground because a lot of people are hurting. Everyone's going through something. Um, Third thing is drug and alcohol abuse will never fix your problems. They're going to temporarily numb the pain and going to create more problems. And it makes the situation worse. The fourth thing is, my past and my mistakes don't define me. And that goes for you also. Your past and your mistakes don't define you. What you do with those experiences and how you treat others and how you respond to life is what defines you. Remember that. It's never too late. I can change my identity, my beliefs, and my life at any time. Okay? The best time is always right now. I can do anything I want as long as I believe in myself and I put in the work and I'm doing it for the right reasons. And there's three things I want to leave you guys with. The most important things I want you guys to remember if you forget everything else I've said. First thing is whatever you choose to do with your life, make sure you find a way to give back to this stream of life. Meaning find a way to do what you're doing with your life to give to others. Give something back. Whatever that means to you. Find a way to help mankind while you're doing it. The second thing is be kind. Let your lifestyle speak love. Build others up and become the best possible version of yourself. That's very simple. Just let the way you live your life speak love. And the third thing is, if my life can change in such a dramatic fashion and things can become as wonderful as they are, I'm extremely blessed. I have wonderful people in my life, and I get to see lives changed all the time. If that can happen out of the mess that I just described to you, then imagine what can happen with your life when you start from a good place. There's no telling what you can do with your life starting from on a positive note. So design your dream and get to work. I mean, there's nothing left to say. Get to work. I'm a recovered dope fiend, ex-dope dealer, and a convicted felon who was living on the streets prior to being locked up. I am a general manager of an industry-leading manufacturer. I'm a loving boyfriend. I'm a loving son. I have my own coaching business. I coach recovering addicts. When I say these things, I cannot tell you how grateful I am. But I tell you those things because I want the same dream to happen in your life. And I want people to understand that if you're struggling, it's okay. It's not the end. And it doesn't have to end in an ugly fashion. But I also want you to know that if things are in a really bad place, the story isn't over. You can always rewrite that story or add chapters onto it. The story's not over until it's over. So make sure that it ends the way you want it to end. That's it, man. Again, thank you guys for having me. I hope that helps somebody. If nothing else, I hope it gave you something to think on for the rest of the day or the rest of the week. But it's just a pleasure to be here. So Mark, again, thank you very much for having me. It's always fun to share with other people what God's done in my life. Mark, did you go to sleep?